GRSE का नंबर बहुत स्ट्रॉन्ग था यार.
Solid numbers. Solid numbers.
अभी सब एग्जीक्यूशन पे है सर. पोटेंशियल तो बहुत है.
Yeah. I mean, we should we'll talk to Sanjeev. We are live. We should talk to Sanjeev Zarbade, who's written that note from Antique on this GRSE, etc. But okay, guys, we have a slightly truncated session today, 20 odd minutes. But thank you so much for joining in. So if you have questions, please send them soon, and please press in the like buttons very quickly. But very interesting morning of trade today. So to my mind, Hersh, this was a continuation from yesterday's session. Okay, no, thank you so much. Continuation from yesterday's session, because we spoke about this yesterday. Let's not panic about the fact that markets were not looking very positive, etc. Because the small caps were looking good.
Correct.
And therefore, what's happened today is similar. That small caps have done well. IT went up. Ravi made a fabulous conversation with us, by the way. We should.
I haven't seen that, but yeah.
Oh, fabulous conversation, and a great report that is written. So, मेरे हिसाब से it's more like continuation of yesterday.
Yeah, absolutely. The benchmark was under pressure yesterday, but that's because banks and IT were under pressure. So you saw a bit of a cool off. Those were basically the stocks were weighing down the index, that were weighing down the index. Now that we saw that adjustment of sorts happen between day before and yesterday, today we are seeing again a bit of positivity come through, both on the index as well. But metals are the big gainers today. And it's China, right? I guess.
Would reckon yes. I would suspect it's the fact that the trade deal is sorted, and therefore people will believe that China will not have a deflationary pressure or slowdown, and all of that. I mean, the biggest driver of metal prices.
Correct.
So I think that's the only thing. We haven't seen domestic triggers. I don't think the CPI numbers have anything to do with it. So it has to be China.
Yeah, and in fact, we should talk about the CPI numbers, because that 3% number is very impressive. Yeah. It again allows the
RBI.
It's 69-month lows. Yeah, 69. Yeah, the lowest in 69 months. So it kind of gives again the bandwidth to the RBI to really cut rates. Now the question again, the next month will be rains, because if the rains turn out to be good, you might again, and see the 3% number. Viewers, is largely because of food inflation. It's currently flattish, and therefore food inflation is what's playing on the CPI number. So you'll want to wait and watch as to if the rainfall turns out to be good. You might well see, and if on time, and mind you, June policy, RBI will have that visibility whether rainfall is on time and not on time, and therefore you might get a bit of a better visibility on whether it's 25, whether it's 50 more. What is it?
Yeah, also. So, two more things here. One, that the base effect, I think, works in favor for food inflation for the next 3-4 months, if I'm not wrong. I'm not 100% sure, but I think that's the math.
Okay.
And two, the one thing, or kuch mat karo, but the one thing you give credit to this administration, this government, is their hawk eye on inflation. Zara bhi inflation upar jata hai. They try and do everything that they can to ensure that inflationary pressures come down, because I think they've gotten that. I think in their book it's the hack. Inflation is the biggest hack for monitoring sentiment and economy, and as long as that is under control, a lot of other things don't play havoc.
And populism,
all of that, right?
So all of that adds up well.
So therefore, rolling it back, I don't think CPI is the reason for metals. Has to be China.
Yeah.
But the standout, Harsh. Defense, GRSE.
Yeah, I mean, what numbers? And I was just trying to pull them out before we started this conversation. Hopefully that search has worked. It has. So the GRSE numbers were fabulous. I want to read them out, and which is why I wanted to pull them out. Maybe a minute more. Yeah. Revenue up 62% YOY. EBITDA up 145% YOY. Margins at 13.5 versus 8.9, and profit at 244 crores, doubled versus last year. If you continue to do this kind of execution, and I'm going to try and look at the quarterly numbers as well, maybe better perspective. Last quarter, the margins were at 6%. This quarter, 13%. The top line was at 1270. This time around 1650. So you're seeing sharp uptick. Execution has basically started to play out this quarter. Sustainability of this execution is the question, but likely looks sustainable given the tailwind that already this India-Pakistan controversy has created
Yes.
in terms of the need for fast execution, if anything.
Most certainly. And the other thing is the antique note yesterday that came in, which this analyst has written, has a very interesting point. So he's made a point that order book is likely to swell 3x in the next 2 years, and this is not ordering that is likely to happen because the government is likely to spend more. Based on deferred orders from FY20 to 25, which were accounted for but not awarded, all of that will happen. So he's given a number of, I think, 240,000 crores or something like that for shipyard companies. And he's constructive on GRSE and the mothership. So one of the shipyards is he's not constructive on, but the two others, including GRSE.
So Cochin is there, GRSE is there, Mazgon Dock is there.
Bullish on Mazgon, bullish on GRSE, not bullish on Cochin.
Okay. So that's how it plays out.
His assessment, maybe it does. We don't know, right? Even Cochin might do well. But just the fact that if the order book is likely to swell so much, and now you're seeing execution, therefore you believe that the growth story stays alive for the next 4 or 5 years.
We're talking defense, but we're missing Sajeet sir. So he just texted saying hello, missing me guys. So yeah, just trying to kind of read that out.
Yeah, because Sajeet does all things defense.
All things defense, yeah.
All things defense is Sajeet Manghat. His interviews of some of the defense companies, I mean, he asks them with a very bechara, straight face, some most killer questions. That's the beauty of Sajeet Manghat.
Anyway, yeah. So that's the one in focus. We've covered metals, we've covered defense. The MSCI reaching. Coromandel Naika. Surprisingly. चल क्या रहा है समझ में नहीं आ रहा है, but for whatever reason Paytm
also, right? I mean, and I
but
wonder
Paytm to a certain extent also the Antfin impact, right? So maybe it's that as well.
But फिर भी Thermax not deleted. Thermax not deleted. 20 times volumes होना था. वो IFL alternate. I mentioned 20 times volume ADV, 20 times to ADV. Why not delete? So that was interesting.
So yeah, that's the other thing that's at play. And then you have Tata Motors. Do you have a view on Tata Motors? I have not had a chance to look at it, but
the numbers are one thing. Okay, for Tata Motors, the story is entirely about how do they navigate this whole trade war issue, right?
Yes.
And therefore, the Nomura note that came in day before yesterday, wherein I think he's made a good point. He's saying that stock got beaten down, rightly so, because of the trade war issues, etc. and stuff like that. Now, their estimates were that the impacts could be as high as 50%. Now, the impact is only 10%. So, they have turned a bit more constructive on TAMO with regards to the JLR performance globally, especially exports out of UK, etc. and stuff like that. And then the performance in China, etc. and all of that. It is a year wherein a lot of those products are not going to be available and therefore expected to be slow. Maybe that baked it in, and now that all of this has happened, maybe the resolution helps the stock a little bit. I doubt it is doing well today because today it will be reeling from the performance and etc. etc. But I think broadly the thing is not as bad as it was feared. The only question that I have heard for anybody who is liking Tata Motors right now is that you look around, look at all the other stocks available which have a more clearer path to sales growth and profit growth. Why do you want to go for something which has got some speed breakers ahead?
But just to kind of play devil's advocate there.
Lovely.
You may not get something like that at the price at which you are getting a Tata Motors. Because wherever there is a problem, you will always get a discount. And Tata Motors unquestionably is a high quality franchise. The largest CV maker, 50% market share in India. And you have that demerger that's also likely to play out. And then you have the PV business as well.
I have an answer for your question, by the way. But
so
the answer for my question is, anybody who's listening to us right now, right? They are not a mutual fund manager, right?
Yeah.
They don't have to buy an auto stock to match. Why shouldn't they buy, for example, 2 or 3 managements that we spoke to today and the numbers that came out of them? So I heard the KYC interview that you did with Borosil Renewables. Now, we do not recommend buy or sell, viewers, keep that in mind. But we point towards what the valuations are looking like. And I think based on the guidance that they've given, the valuations don't look bad for Borosil, right?
Yeah, they don't.
Can you just tell us about it?
Yeah. So again, it's a very interesting interview that we did. So, three things which have been a problem over the last year. Growth was flattish, less than 10% YOY, and I'm talking FY25. I'm not talking Q4. Let's forget Q4 for the minute. FY25 largely flat growth. The flat growth was only and only because one, you had massive amount of dumping from China. China had reduced prices by 32%. So you had a volume hit and you had a pricing hit. So volumes went up by just 10% last year. Pricing was up just 2% last year. Okay. You switch to Q4 FY25 trends. Volume up 16%. Pricing up 22%. And that's because of the ADD that's come. It's an additional duty which the government of India has sanctioned for all imports coming into India from China and Vietnam. If this were to happen, Borosil could be a big beneficiary, already looking at that, staring at that opportunity, already looking at the numbers for Q4. Visibly, the opportunity is available. And therefore, if this were to continue, and the duty has been levied for the next 5 years, so all the way up to FY29. But the point being that if the performance from an execution standpoint were to continue, you could see one, growth on the top line driven by pricing plus volume, and growth in margins because pricing has gotten better. And therefore, you'll see margins expand substantially. Currently, margins are sitting at roughly 4%. Margins he has guided for is 30% for FY26. You're going to see substantial expansion.
Sorry, FY25 average margins are 4%.
4%.
And he's guiding to 30% margins.
Yes. Just on the back of pricing. So, but simple math है ना.
Standalone business तो 22% अभी नहीं किया.
22% अभी किया sir.
Quarter 4.
But I'm talking full year FY25. I'm not talking quarter 4. And he was talking full year. So I have to compare full year to full year. I can't compare. I can't compare it the other way. So therefore, that's what he's saying. I'm saying even if they do 1500 crore of top line, hypothetically, which is what they've done in FY25, and if they do a 30% margin, which means 500 crore, give or take a few crores here or there. The stock is trading at 7,000 crore. There is a debt on the balance sheet, there's no doubt. But I'm saying at an EBITDA level, you're trading at just 14 times with massive amount of growth. So they currently are able to cater to 8.5 gigawatts of solar generation capacity, out of which 2 gigawatts is sitting in Europe. Let's remove those 2 gigawatts from out of the equation. So 6.5 gigawatts coming from India, supplying to India, right? They are saying that another 3 gigawatts will be added by FY27, right, to this. So another 3 gigawatts to be added likely, and he's saying there's an upside bias to that also. He's saying maybe it will be 3.5, 3.6 gigawatts. So an 8.6 gigawatt, demand का तो कोई issue है ही नहीं. तुम demand perspective से India has to put up around 35 gigawatts in FY26, 27, 28, 29, 30 to reach the 280 gigawatt target for 30. So 35 gigawatts में से 9 gigawatt अगर करना है तो it's 25% largely doable. I'm just kind of putting it out there. The only question is whether they can execute or whether suddenly India tapers down and says that boss solar अभी नहीं करना है, थोड़ा slow down करना है, वो अलग बात.
वो होना नहीं है because there are targets set already. And you know that solar and wind are the easiest to achieve. So therefore, I think that ecosystem continues. The thing, viewers, I think, so one, that, okay, so Borosil Renewables, right? etc. Look at the numbers of some of the others that have come in as well. Just right now, I was seeing with our colleague Vansh, the numbers of KPI Green. Phenomenal growth.
Insane numbers. I saw it today morning.
Yeah, phenomenal growth.
It was on our group. Yeah. Phenomenal.
So that number has come out very well. These companies are executing well and growth is coming in. You look at the numbers that Vari threw up when it came out with its results as well. Phenomenal numbers. So almost everybody in this ecosystem. You have the KPI numbers with you?
Yeah, KPI Green came out at 10 in the morning, by the way. Double of top line on a year-on-year basis. 289 to 569. So top line has doubled. EBITDA up 74%. From 93 crore, EBITDA has come in at 161 crore. Margins have contracted from 32% to 28%. Profit after tax has more than doubled. 99 crore versus 43 crore. This is how it's all playing out.
Yeah.
And maybe some context from a quarter perspective as well, because some of these companies you want to also take a perspective from a quarterly. Last quarter, top line was 458 crore, 30% margin is what they've done. 137 crore in EBITDA versus the 161 crore they've done this time. Top line 458 crore versus 569 crore what they've done this time. And PAT was 85 crore versus the 99 crore they've done this time.
पर वही है कि देखो अभी क्वार्टर ऑन क्वार्टर ये अगले क्वार्टर में मत करना, वो बारिश के क्वार्टर्स में some of these businesses.
But I'm saying at least last quarter versus this, that shouldn't have been a problem, and therefore I'm just trying to compare.
Yeah. So almost everything in this ecosystem, guys, is doing really well. You got to pick out where the valuations are good, where is it that you believe the management has the execution capability, and remember, debt in most of these businesses will be high. Especially if there is an EPC business, because it works on higher debt, right? You do higher ITP models, etc., the debt will go up. The question is, what kind of peak debt are people looking at? So, good numbers, solid numbers for a lot of those, but very interesting to see the valuation numbers of Borosil Renewables, because that Hersh tells me are actually lower or not very high, so which is the interesting piece.
Yeah, and the other thing is we've done a KYC on Borosil Renewables. Why don't you drop that?
Yeah, if we can
that
drop
had
it right
some
now,
massive traction as well. So maybe Bridul, you want to
By
drop
the way,
that?
what we mean when we say drop that is that in that chat window, the link to the interview will come in so that you can see the interview. So by the way, you can drop the Wari interview as well. You can drop this interview as well. And for all of you who want to hear what KPI Green wants to say, he'll join us at 2:10 today on India Market Close on NDTV Profit. So you might want to tune in for that.
Perfect. Okay.
What else? Very quickly, we're going to bounce. Yeah,
sorry, I'm going to check if I missed any messages.
No, I love the business. So people just think about it, right? For every time you went looking for a bargain, if Airtel is expensive, let me buy the cheaper one. It hasn't worked out. It's almost true for almost every single industry that the market leader in a business like this is doing very well. And Telecom, imagine, I just think just anybody who's thinking the next 10 years, can you live without your phone? Do you see any other player entering the industry? Do these guys have the chance and the opportunity over the next 10 years to take tariffs higher meaningfully? Yes. If all of these are a yes, they have now had a tariff hike in Africa as well. I don't think you can go wrong with this business.
Now, you're right. But ARPUs haven't inched up at least this quarter. So you'll want to wait and watch as to where ARPUs go. They've guided for an ARPU of 300. We are still at 245.
कब से कर रहे हैं डाइवर्स? But वो जब होना होगा ना, मैं बोल रहा हूँ. When this has to happen, the ARPUs will go up like this. They also, it's a service that leads to inflationary pressures.
Yes.
So you got to be mindful of what is it that the government will also not frown upon or frown upon. It's good for the people if the tariffs are lower. But I'm saying there'll be reasonable dialogue, right? They'll not do losses. And therefore, एक क्वार्टर इधर एक क्वार्टर उधर पता नहीं, थोड़ा महंगा अभी है, 4 साल के बाद क्या सस्ता लगेगा, मुझे लगता है सस्ता।
और केपेक्स काफी सारा हो गया है। अब ये रिकॉग्नाइज करना है कि रेवेन्यू टू एबिटा टू फ्री कैश फ्लो बहुत सॉलिड आएगा। It's one way to look at only the P&L. It's the other way to actually look at free cash flow से लेके net cash flow तक क्या पैसा निकल रहा है और किधर जाएगा उधर से।
मैं बोल रहा हूँ आप सोचो इंडिया में फिलहाल in an economy which is going from 4 trillion or 5 trillion to 10, 15, 20 trillion, essential services and monopolies there. How will you build out another exchange except for BSE and NSE? नहीं होना है। So think of NSE, right? It's an unlisted stock, therefore we can talk about it. How will you get, I'm not saying this buy or sell, but how will you get another telephone operator besides the 3 that we already have? नहीं होना है। शायद the run rate might, who knows, you might buy a small company, it might do better, but if you want a no-brainer investment, some of these guys are just brilliant.
Yeah. And then the other way to look at it, if at all it's a duopoly, like a BSE and NSE, it's that NSE's market share is being eaten into. So that could be one opportunity. But
yeah,
either Jio and Airtel में उतना नहीं है. Currently it's two big behemoths which are currently it's two large bears which are fighting each other, and that's how it is. So anyway, so 2-3 things. One is Yes, we have a 210 with KPI Green. We have a 230 with Tata Motors. So please listen into that one.
245 with Ajmera Realty.
245 with Ajmera Realty. There's been an appreciation post, and I'm taking the liberty of giving myself some appreciation. Devanshu Kumar said that Home First was in KYC this week, and he really liked it. It's in his holding for the last 2 years. And he liked it, whatever. So thank you, Himanshu, for listening in and finding it valuable. We've got a bunch of questions. One is from Mirza Akram Beg. He's a regular viewer.
We'll have to do it in 1 minute. So let's do rapid fire.
Tata Consumer Marico came out with numbers Q4. Who's the clear winner in your opinion? Especially given that Tata Consumer is guided for 15% growth as and when inflation comes down.
Both are doing well to my mind, and Marico has consistently actually delivered fairly decent pieces. So I would suspect both.
Right. Acquisition of Yes Bank. Will the business change for it? Yes Bank is looking for a new chief executive. Not sure if they're looking for a new CEO. I'm not so sure. RBI is still very much in control, mind you. And second one, business will change. I think so, because otherwise to pay 21.5 looks difficult, frankly, in terms of value. JSW Energy, again, within the energy basket. O2 Power and KSK Mahanadi, what's the impact of that in your opinion? What effect will it have?
Yeah, is there a temporary hit to it because of the permissions, etc.? Yes, there is. But I would reckon that if it gets resolved, etc., and the kind of plans that they have for capacity addition, they've beaten all guidances that they've given thus far, right? I would suspect that the going might be good over the next 3-4 years.
Okay, what's the view on an IndusInd Bank?
For the business.
Yeah.
The stock.
What's the view on IndusInd Bank? Right time to get in? I'd say if you waited this long, wait for management commentary to come out. Because abhi earnings aayega yaar. I mean, if you really wanted to get in, should have gotten in at 650. Otherwise, abhi wait karo. Now it's at 800. You may want to wait. You know what? Okay, one more. Mrinal is saying seasonal theme, summer stocks like AC, beverages, power plants. Peak production over this year?
I would suspect yes. Also remember, for ACs in particular, the last year, calendar year 24, was a 45% growth number. So the base effect is very high. So please be mindful of that.
Okay. So I think we'll leave it at that today because we're too stretched. And Sajeet sir has gone for the Tata Motors interview. You can tune in to that at 2:30, 2:45 Ajmera Realty, 2:10 KPI Green. We have a packed India market close. So stay tuned with us. Go have lunch and join us.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I have a call.
Closing no करनी है
Closing करना है मुझे, but only point is the lunch I'll be able to join only at 1:30.
Chance we'll go for lunch.
But you can start early.
We can go for lunch.